Now, Brett, you had a lot of success. I mean, you had the big exit. You're creating new brands, and you're making more and more and more money. I mean, you are a very successful person, you know, and you have a lot of experience too. What keeps you motivated? What drives you? Hey guys, welcome back to Driven Channel, and I'm very excited here with this exciting person that everybody that watches me, you know how much champagne we drink. Like we drink champagne like a lot. And a while back, you know, I had this champagne, Bel Air. By the way, I live in Bel Air, and it's the Bel Air champagne. And people have gifted me the champagne because it's Bel Air. Bel Air. I don't know if you pronounce it the same as Bel Air, but Brett Berish, you're in the liquor business. I know you had an exit, or I don't know if you had more than one, but I know you had a big exit, and I know I researched you. I looked stuff up. I know you had a nice house in Chicago, and you know you've been through a lot. And one thing that I like is your story on how it wasn't easy in the beginning, how you went through times where you didn't have any money and you lost money and, you know, IRS and things like that. But you stuck through it and you made it. You know, you have your success story. So I'm very excited to know more about you and share it with my audience here at the Driven community. So Brett, to start off, can you just share about like who Brett Berish is? Who are you? Why did you become an entrepreneur, and what made you get into the liquor industry? Because, you know, us Mexicans, we like to drink. We like tequila. We like champagne. We like drinking. That's what we do for a living, drinking and working. So what made you get into that industry? Because it is a very intriguing business. You make a lot of money in the liquor space. I know that there's a lot of big names that have gotten in, celebrities, and we'll talk about brand and all that stuff. But who is Brett Berish? Where'd you come from? You know, where did you get started and got into the liquor industry?
Well, Albert, I really appreciate you having me on and being able to speak to the Driven audience. I describe myself as, I think there's, well, a couple different types of people when it comes to business life. There's those like my 24-year-old daughter who knows exactly what she wants to do and she's doing it. And I think she's the luckiest person in the world, because if you know what you want to do, it's a big box to check. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and my problem was I wanted to do everything, therefore I did nothing for a long time. And I had lots of ideas, but I was afraid of picking one, because I think my fear was, what if I'm picking the wrong one and I'm wasting my time? And for me, I started my company in my 30s, and one day, it's one of those, when you have one of those moments, and that was one of them for me, where I just said, fuck it, I got to stop. I got to pick an idea, and I just got to go for it. And it's been 24 years since then, and I'm loving what I do, and I've never run out of ideas, but I just like the industry I'm in, and I'm focused on it. But that's a little bit of background on kind of who I was and what I've become. I think the second side would be, I think a lot of people I've had great successes. I think I'd like to think I'm on my 5th successful brand. And in our industry, that's unheard of. But when people know my brands, they think that I've been successful forever. And you touched on some of the non-success. And I think that's the part I like telling, because that's what motivates me, is the shit that people went through to get there. Not the success side, because that's easy to sell, but it's the stuff that the hardship you got to go through to get there. And most people don't know that side. So I appreciate you
Yeah.
being transparent about your side.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think it's about people learning and you know, people understanding that entrepreneurship is not for everybody. It's scary. I don't know about you, but you know, sometimes I felt like not living anymore. Sometimes I couldn't swallow my own food, and I got turned purple. Many times I wanted to jump off my balcony and not live anymore. You know, it's been a nightmare. but it's been a beautiful nightmare because it also comes with a huge reward. Now, you said that 24 years ago is when you started. Is that when you got into the liquor industry?
Correct. So started the company literally in 1999, and the day we launched our first brand was on 9/11.
Wow.
You couldn't
Perfect timing. Perfect timing.
timing. So you couldn't ask for the, more of a horrific moment in everything in life back then.
Yeah.
Um, but I chose the liquor industry, and I've come to this conclusion. I think I could be good at anything. And that's my attitude today, based on how I think and what I do and what I've learned. But I chose the liquor industry because my dad was in it, and I never worked in it, but I saw what he did, and I wanted to be like my father. And if you ask my father, he would always say, "Don't do what I do, because there's got to be something easier for you." And I can relate to that. I feel like that even with my own kids. I want them to do something, one, that they're happy with, but hopefully it's a little bit easier to get there, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I love it. I'm super happy in the space I'm in. Uh, and I think it's also, my happiness comes from, I've learned so much by something you said, is making mistakes. So this is my success is based on my failure. So I don't want to relearn another industry. I've already
Yeah.
made those mistakes, and I know
Yeah.
what I'm doing here.
And you said you're on your fifth run. Does this mean, is this your fifth exit or is this your fifth brand?
To me, it's one and the same. So in our industry, what typically happens, it's hard enough creating a successful brand, and what usually happens is, you create a brand and you sell it and you're done. I just love what I continue to do. For me, and you mentioned I did have an exit, and the reason I sold in that case was I had two choices. I had a whole bunch of brands like this sitting on my shelf that were done, but I couldn't launch because I didn't have any money. And I made a conscious choice.
I have this one.
Love it.
I got this
That's
one.
McQueen, that's Vion, but they were finished brands sitting on the shelf, but I didn't have the money to launch them. And I made a decision that, you know what, I can sell something and make a lot of money,
Yeah.
and I can get bigger. I can go faster. I can
Yeah.
grow, or I could just continue to go slow and maybe launch another brand. So I always describe it as I cut off my arm and now I'm bigger and stronger. And that's what happened.
Yeah, I will show the Bel Air champagne, but I drank it already. So I don't have it here with me. But on the exit, is this the Ace of Spades champagne?
Yeah, that was my first successful brand, huge success. I think what's interesting for anybody listening, if I'm on my fifth brand, I think the thing that all my brands have in common is 99% of people don't believe in them.
Hmm.
They don't think it's going to work. They're different. They look different. They act different. And that's the key, is you just got to believe. You got to build an army of believers. And it just starts with every day is finding someone new who believes in your brands. And that's where my success comes from.
And quick story, just quick question before I get into the details on how that brand, how you made it special to catch the attention, and now you're doing the same with the new brands you're building. Like that Jay-Z bought that bought Ace of Spades. How do you create that vision for somebody like that to purchase your brand? And like, what, like, is it because that was a really tasty champagne. I love that champagne. When I want to celebrate, I get Ace of Spades, and it's expensive.
100%. I think I'll answer it this way, Albert. I see lots of presentations today on brands looking for capital, and there's always that page that says, in any business, that says, if I can get this percent of the category or the industry, and that puts a value on it of X times because this is the multiple. That was me. And that was why I failed miserably, is I was chasing the exit before I started. I was chasing the exit every single day. And once I stopped doing that, and I didn't make it about how do you sell it? How do you make it about getting a Jay-Z or a buyer to buy it? It's been 17, 18, well, no, it's been almost 19 years of not thinking that way. So if you ask me if I launched a new brand, my new brand Deacon, which is a whiskey that we're launching in 60 countries right now, it's not about exit. It's a great product and I'm going to go out and sell it every day. And I don't think about all I want to do is make money every day, because if I know I'm making money every day, I can put more money back in the brand and continue to build it. So I don't think about those things. If they happen, great. But if you're focused on that, for me, it won't work.
So what have you ever considered, like, what if you hadn't sold your first, like, if you wouldn't have done the first exit? Do you think you might be better off right now if you kept it, or do you think that was needed at the time to build the new ones?
I know. Well, for me, it was, if you look, well, there's two ways to look at it. One is I guess I could have brought on capital partners, but I didn't want that. I had investors early on, and it was terrible. It's not right for me. They don't have a long-term mentality. They're thinking about the exit before you start. And I'm not built that way. So I didn't want to do it that way. And then
Yeah.
the second is, well, if you look where I am today, I've got Bel Air, you mentioned, which is the single biggest sparkling in the United States, champagne. It's enormous. It's in 70, 80 countries. I've got Bamboo, which is the #1 premium rum in the world, which is in 70, 80 countries. I've got now this new brand, Deacon. I've got these other brands that are hugely successful that I wouldn't have been able to launch, or I would have had to wait a number of years later because I didn't have the money. Because sometimes success eats your capital, because you got to keep
Yeah.
building. You got to keep building. You got to keep adding. So for whatever reason, it'd be nice to own all this stuff, but I didn't have that opportunity, and I feel great about where I am.
Got it. And I see Bel Air champagne. It's around $28. I see it for $30, $40. There's the rosé is $40. So this champagne, because I'm gonna switch it now, because you said it's better than Veuve Clicquot, right?
Of course.
Okay.
100%.
So we buy Veuve Clicquot, like 12 a 12 pack, maybe like at least 2 times a week, because we have a lot of parties. We have a lot of networking events for the companies that we have here, and like parties, you need some champagne to celebrate, because we celebrate a lot. Now I'm gonna switch the Veuve Clicquot to the Bel Air champagne. You okay that? You're the expert with this, so you're saying this champagne is better and
% better. You taste it
okay.
blind, you'll never go back. So to me, there's two parts of brands. One is the more important one is taste. And for all my brands, I will not launch a brand unless I think the taste is better than the competition. And in this case, my competitors are Moet and Veuve. Those are the two 800-pound gorillas in the category. We taste better. It's a better product. There's no question.
And you're
But
better
then the
priced too.
second, so,
And you,
and there's other rationale why it would make sense. But the other one is, to me, a brand, hopefully it has a meaning. It means something. And, I think our brands, Bel Air, all my brands, I think they have meaning. There's a reason why we have more social media followers on our brands than any other brand, because people hold the brands and they're holding it like it's a trophy. I've achieved something. I've created something. I've done something. This is the next generation brands. These are the brands you grow up with now. It's not your parents' brands. It's not old and stuffy and they're milking the past. We're selling the future.
yeah, and for example, like the champagne, Bel Air. What is? How do you describe or how do you know if the taste is better? Like, what? How do you see champagne? Like, because you know that better than me.
It's as an example, the bottle you're holding, Bamboo, is my rum.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing where, again, the big companies, Albert, they'll do focus groups and testing and market surveys. sometimes I think they all overthink things. They all overanalyze everything. They overthink everything. They overtest everything. A reality is, if it just tastes better blind to anybody who's tasting it, and I'm not after the connoisseur, because I think they don't they're looking for something 99% of consumers aren't looking for. And I'm looking for the best taste. So if you taste mine versus the competition, you're going to be shocked. It tastes better, and taste it blind, and I'll win every time. Every time.
You're making me want to go buy some more of the Bel Air. Well, what does Bel Air stand for? Because you talked about having a meaning, the name of the brand. Why Bel Air? What does that mean to you?
All the brands have meanings. So Bel Air, in this case, it's actually Luc Belair, and Luc means to shine upon. It's almost like a light shining. And Bel Air means beautiful aura, beautiful space, beautiful air. And that's what the brand represents. If you look at the brand Bamboo, my rum, that in the 16th century, merchants traveled the West Indies. They didn't like the taste of traditional rum, which they called grog, and they would blend and craft their own rum and add their own characteristics, and they called that Bamboo.
Yeah.
And we brought that back to life. If you look at Deacon, my whiskey from Scotland, if in Scotland, if you're the best at what you do, if you're the best mixologist, if you're the best, banker, whatever you do, you're given a title, which is the Deacon. So all my brands have authentic meaning and story behind it. So
Yeah.
everything to me is taste, story, and look and feel.
This just to end the champagne conversation, the Bel Air champagne, how does it compare to Ace of Spades, like in the taste and everything?
I think it's, well, you're talking to
Better? It's
somebody. It's like,
what you started both. You started both, so
they're both great brands. They're both great brands. To me, uh, the goal with Ace was I wanted a few bottles, crazy expensive. The goal with Bel Air is I want lots of bottles, and I want the party to be bigger and better. So if you're in a
yeah,
nightclub, back in the day, Ace was, you're buying one bottle and it's expensive, you know. Today, I want, if you're in the club, no, it's bottle packages. I want 10 bottles purchased at once, because the party's bigger, the momentum's bigger, the occasion's bigger, everything feels bigger.
yeah.
So they're different, but they're the same.
Why is like a bottle like Ace of Spades? Why is it so much more than like a Bel Air bottle or any other bottle? Is it better quality or is it just the brand?
It's branding is a huge part of it. It's also just how much you want to sell, the allocation.
Hmm.
So you're selling a smaller amount, and when you decide to set a price on something, you're dictating what the future looks like.
Yeah,
So as you said, an Ace is expensive. To me, Bel Air is more achievable, yet has the same aspirational feeling. So to me, it's like I could buy a Porsche, or I could buy a Ferrari. Boy, a Porsche is pretty good. So I could buy two
yeah,
or three if I wanted to. That's my goal.
yeah. Now, Brett, you had a lot of success. I mean, you had the big exit. You're creating new brands, and you're making more and more and more money. I mean, you are a very successful person, and you have a lot of experience too. What keeps you motivated? What drives you to keep going?
I think
Why not retire when you sold your first one?
uh, my goal, Albert, was day one. My views haven't changed. I want to come out with brands. If I have a good idea, I want to execute it. It doesn't have to be my idea, but I want to execute good ideas. I think two is, it goes back to this idea that every time I launch a brand, people don't believe. I don't like to follow trends. I'll give you a good example. I don't follow trends. I think if I'm following a trend and something's hot, I'm late. I don't want to do it. If you show me data, if you show me information on why something is working, to me, it scares me. I want to
Yeah,
go into areas that are not working, that are slow, that no one wants to be in. So if you use, my rum, Bamboo as the example, I remember launching that. Everyone said it would never work. Rum isn't growing. There is no such thing as premium rum. 5 years later, we're the #1 premium rum in the world. I love if you tell me don't do it, it's never going to work. You're going to fail. I want to go prove you wrong. I got a big freaking chip on my shoulder, and I want to prove it wrong.
But Brett, how do you compete with like Cuba and Puerto Rico, like their Bacardi and Don Q? Because doesn't rum come from there? Like and how does yours compete with them?
Well, there's two ways to look at it. So a great example is Bamboo actually comes from Barbados.
Mm.
And Barbados is actually the original rum island. It's not Cuba. It's not Puerto Rico. Rum originated in Barbados. So already, to me, that's a great story. But putting all that aside, I think for anybody starting a business, and I go back to kind of my mistakes, is when I first started, I thought, what's Bacardi doing? What's Diageo doing? What's Jim Beam doing? And I should emulate them. And that was part of my making mistakes. I can't be like them. I'm not them. I don't have the resources they do. I don't have the capital they have. And I think once I stop thinking like that, I can compete. I just got to be me. And I think that's my way of answering your question. I don't give a shit what they do. I just have to be me, and I can be successful in a different way. And it works. It works. And I think that's the problem is you look around and you say, I want to be this.
Yeah.
But that's not authentic to who you are. And I think that's critical to being successful.
One of my favorite drinks is rum and Coke. Would this go good with Coke, or is this better on the rocks?
No, either way. It's so good that people love, and to me, this is the ultimate compliment. If you can drink it neat, if you can drink it just on ice, that's a huge compliment. If you're going to make a cocktail out of it, whether it's rum and Coke, whether it's a Mai Tai, a pina colada, a dark and stormy, it's even better.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. And you know what? You get very like energetic with your stories when you talk about your brand. What does that have to do with the brand? You think your energy just goes on another level when you talk about the story of the brand?
I think my answer is I don't know any other way. I can't fake this shit. I love what I do. I love my brands. I got my whole heart and soul is in it. I've got a team of a couple hundred people whose whole heart and soul are just like me. We believe in it. We believe in what we're doing. And as much as you've got technology and social media and everything else, I consider myself an old school brand builder. I want to get out and talk to people and hand sell and taste people. And that's why we're successful, is just getting out there and meeting people. It's not based on trying to make something viral. It's not based on some unique ad. It's just getting out there, and it works.
How important is having a story for your brand, like storytelling? You feel like that has been a big impact in your success?
It's a good question. I think storytelling is critical to me in launching a brand. I need the story. I need to believe in it. I need to feel like there's history and there's a feeling and there's, why, Deacon, why the bottle looks the way it does, because it's copper and it matches the copper pot stills. Why the characters on the bottle, because it dates back to the plague and it reminds me of Burning Man and Mad Max, and why the name and why the liquid. It's from Isla and Speyside and it's a blend, and why it's not a single malt. There's story there, but it's hard to tell all the story, but I have to believe in it. I want my team to believe in it. When I'm talking to you, I want to believe it. So to me, it just creates that I don't know, as an entrepreneur, you believe in what you're doing because you don't want to fake it. So you don't want to, I'm not in this. I'm in this because I love my brands and I want you to love my brands and you to appreciate that they're authentic. So I couldn't launch a brand. It doesn't say under my name, founder and creator. It's about the brand. I need that to believe in something and go out and sell it, just like I need it to taste better than my competition.
Yeah.
I believe it.
Do you enjoy drinking? Is that is that one of your passions? Do you drink every day? Is that what keeps you young, or what's the secret behind this?
I love drinking. I love drinking. I love selling. I love marketing. I'm an excellent drinker. I love Albert drinking alone because I'm not alone and I got that glass in my hand and it allows me to just take life in that moment. And I appreciate it. I love it. I'm what I call, people ask me what I drink, and I don't drink based on food. I call myself a mood drinker. It's all about the mood I'm in. What do I feel like? What do I feel like right now? So that's what I am. But yes, I love drinking.
And do you drink like occasionally, or do you have like a drink a day, or how involved are you with your brands, tasting them? Because you probably have to taste them a lot, right?
I taste all the time. So it's one of the most enjoyable things for me because it's all about, and again, it goes back to, I realizing I'm not Bacardi. I got to do it different. And there's nothing better than, I'm not a sommelier. I don't have a background in that, but I can taste the difference in brands, meaning
Yeah.
I think most brands taste alike. I think you can't tell the difference.
Yeah.
So to me, if I can create a discernible difference, and that's the beauty, it's really hard, but if you can create a discernible difference in taste versus competition, it's a home run.
I always tell people that, like, because I like drinking alone too. I don't need people to drink. Like, when people say, "Oh, you have to drink in a group. If you're drinking by yourself, something's wrong with you." So, like, when I drink alone, I get a lot of great ideas. You mentioned that. So, like, for example, and then people can say, "Hey, it doesn't work." I mean, you are super wealthy. You have a track record. You built Ace of Spades. You sold it to Jay-Z, and you drink. So, like, were you having a drink by yourself, and you just get like a click? I have this multi-million or billion-dollar idea. Why do you think the drinking has to do with the ideas?
I think it's, I don't want to say it's just drinking, but I think anytime you can put yourself in an environment where it's just about you, it allows you time to think, and you're going to think different. I walk every day. It started with COVID. I walk probably 5 to 10 miles a day.
A day?
And it
What,
just
in the morning, first
allows,
thing?
first thing in the morning, and it allows, it's my therapy. It allows me to think, and I get ideas that way. I get ideas when I'm just kind of letting all that anxiety out. And when I'm having that drink, it's the same thing. I'm just, it's almost like, if you've ever been to a therapist or gone to the doctor, and that first question is always, how do you feel? And you never
Yeah.
ask yourself that question. But when someone else asks you, it's almost, you got to take a pause and think to yourself, how do I feel? What is going on? And I like those moments because it reminds me of me. It allows
Yeah.
me to think about me.
Yeah, no, I mean, I never. Usually, people when they're having a drink, they're like in a happy mood. They're like, it seems like they're enjoying themselves. But obviously, like, some people overdo it, and then maybe that's not the best way. Like, if people drink too much and then they black out or things like that. Do you before moving on with this topic, do you kind of are you very disciplined where you have the right amount to drink a day, or when you drink, or whenever you decide to drink?
You should never over drink. You should never. For me, again, I know what my limits are. I don't I don't drink to get drunk. How's that?
Yeah.
Uh, I like alcohol. I love what I'm doing. And what the other part, which I didn't mention, is, for me, it's business in the sense of, when I was coming up with Deacon, the Scotch, the whiskey, all I'd be drinking is everyone else's whiskey because I want to get familiar with it. I want to get comfortable
Yeah.
with it. I want to understand it. I want to know
That
why.
makes sense. Yeah.
What does it taste like? Why do people like this? Maybe it's just the brand name they like, and they don't realize there's something better out there. So I need to go through that exercise, and I do it. This is where it comes back to, there's no market research. We don't have taste testers out there. It's gut feeling of what people want.
Yeah, and you know what? I saw you with Fat Joe, and I saw a video like, and you guys had a long interview. I saw it, and you get millions of views, and you're there with Fat Joe, and you have a lot of other celebrities. So how do you get close with these celebrities? Because I believe these celebrities have a big deal on helping the brand blow up, right?
There's no question. Everybody helps a brand. There's no questions. And answering the first part, how do Fat Joe or Post Malone or Steve Aoki or Drake, any of these guys, I know them all because of the brands. That's it. It's because of the brand, because somehow these brands mean something to everybody. They wanted them, they've experienced it, they've had those moments, like you said, where I drank Bel Air. And for me, I want to lean in on anybody who's a supporter of my brands. I'm going to lean in on. I don't care who they are, where they are, what country they're from, who their audience is. I want to lean in on that.
Yeah.
So it's a natural progression for how I think about, both liquor, business, and building something. The reason that I get to, my focus, if you saw that interview with Fat Joe or any of these guys, I wanted to hear from them. I know they're successful, but I don't care
Yeah.
about their success.
Yeah.
All I care about is that the shit that they went through to get there. And Fat Joe's got some crazy experiences that he's very open and honest about, that he went through. And I think that is motivating for people like me when I was younger and today.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And Fat Joe, he went broke 2 times. And I know that like in the beginning when you started your business, did you ever kind of like were close to going broke, or was everything smooth to your first exit?
No, it's horrifying. I I had I levered up my house to put more money back in the business, and then stop paying my mortgage because meant I could put more money back in the business. And back in the day, when you stop paying your mortgage, a marshal would come and foreclose on your house. So I stopped paying my taxes to the IRS, and I didn't know that they can find you, and they swept my bank account and took all my cash. So I put my income into my girlfriend, who's not my wife's name. So I've been there. It's horrifying. Uh, it's horrifying, but when you look back on it, it's also, it's motivating
Yeah.
because look where I am now.
Yeah. You know what I tell this to people: one day your biggest test will become your testimony. And I think that was your testimony. Like when your IRS, when the IRS is wiping your bank account and you're going through that, like what's going through your head? Like how did you can you go back a little bit right there and talk about like what that did to your entrepreneur career?
I'll give you the better example. So I mentioned I had investors, I had financial investors, and they wanted to wind up the company. They wanted to stop, and I wanted to keep going. And I was willing to put more money back in the business. And I remember calling my mother, and my mom is my hero. She's my rock. She's the one who supported me for everything. And I was telling her what was happening, and she says, "Brett, I'll sell my rings for you. I'll do anything for you." And I remember I was on Broome and Wooster Street in Soho outside, because I didn't want anybody to hear what was going on, talking to her. And I remember telling her, "No, don't worry, but I'll figure this out." But I said it, but I realized something. I loved what I was doing. And I told her I didn't need to make a lot of money. I just wanted enough money to live and I'd be fine because I loved what I was doing. And I swear that's the moment everything just slowed down for me. And I wasn't chasing anymore. I'm now just doing something I like and I'll get there. And that's exactly what's happened ever since. So some people say, the darkest moment is when the light shines, and that was my moment.
Did you feel like quitting at all or no?
I don't,
Sometimes?
it's an interesting question. I never wanted to quit. I never wanted to quit because I think it was fear. It was just fear of failure, and in some ways, another way to look at it is, I say this about my mother, and I could say this about myself when I was younger. She's fearless or she's clueless. And sometimes those two things are the same. And when you're younger, you don't know you don't know the issues, if you know what I mean. You're not aware of the downside. So for me, it wasn't an option. I had to persevere. I had to do it. I never gave up. I never gave up, but it was horrifying. Crying, sleepless nights, walking through New York. Wanted to kill myself every other day. It sucked, but I never gave up.
You talked about investors. When you got investors, is that like you raised capital in the beginning and then they wanted to? How was that? How was that? Like, when did you raise capital and when did you know you needed to raise some capital? Was it in the beginning or after?
We self-funded in the beginning, and then maybe a year or two in, we raised capital. And we raised capital from sophisticated investors from a private equity fund. And as time went on, 5 years or so, they've got a horizon. They got to get out. They're thinking of the exit. And for me, it was, and that's the interesting part of the process to me is, and I mean this genuinely, my mistakes, my success are based on my failures. So my first 5 or 6 years of this business is why I'm successful today. And I think you got to go through sometimes, you got to go through the learning curve. And that's what I did. And they didn't see the future the way I saw it. And I ended up buying them out. And look what's happened.
Was it a combination of investors or was it just one? And also, did you did like how many investors was it? So you just dealt with one party then?
We had one investor, and then we had two additional investors who were just high net worth individuals. But it wasn't angel rounds. It was true financial investors.
And this was not for equity. It was more for, it was a debt, right?
Equity.
Oh, equity.
Yeah.
Also, you gave him some equity, then you bought it back.
Correct.
Got it. Yeah, got it. Makes sense. And you mentioned something about that I kind of got. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you kind of you mentioned about the power of saying no. Like can you touch on that?
I think and again, it goes back to learning. And it's not just our industry, but it's about respecting a brand. And I think what a lot of people do is they give everything away. And sometimes you just got to say no and get people to respect, because if they can afford it, they can buy it. It should be the mentality. Yeah. And a lot of times what happens is and I did it, is you gave everything away. Everybody wants something free. And that's when you lose the power of a brand. And to me, saying no is a powerful sales tool. For every time, and I learned it through Ace of Spades, every time someone would ask, and back then it was, I don't think I opened a bottle for 5 years and tasted people in the trade, because if I opened it, my attitude was, if I opened it, I got nothing to sell. It's getting people to respect a brand. And it's almost like I look at it as I always compare things, brand building to children. If you send your kids to somebody else's house, you know who the parents are. You
Yeah.
want to know who they are because you want to make sure your kids are protected. It's the same thing with brand building. If you're going to work with somebody else, you got to have some mutual respect. Otherwise, just say no to them because otherwise it's not worth it. It's not worth taking a chance. And that's how I view brand building.
Was it easy for you raising capital, or was it a little bit hard
Oh, it was
when you,
terrible. It sucked. It sucked, but it also was a realization that it just takes one. That's what you always have to remember when you're raising money is is it you can't someone has to see your vision, and not everyone does. Not everyone
yeah.
will get it. It just takes one, and you got to have thick skin. You got to. And we in fact, I remember distinctly we had somebody raising capital for us. We had a third party marketer raising money, and I just started getting so frustrated because we weren't having success. In fact, I'm the one who found our initial investor, because I got frustrated. And I think, that's something that I say to my team every single day. You got to rely on yourself. And that was, again, part of my failure is I expected every time someone would tell me something that they would come through for me or do something for me, I believed them. And that was my mistake. Don't believe it. You got to go fucking do it yourself. And if they come through, great, but don't expect it. You got to go make it happen yourself.
Yeah, and then just to finish off the whole raising capital, was it like a 20%, 30%? Was it a lot or a little bit?
I can't even remember. It's been so long. They probably owned 30 and then over, and then we got diluted. I don't know, probably 40 some percent at the time. But this was a long time ago.
Yeah. And yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome. And then the vision that you said, like the vision is important. And what does vision mean to you, and how do you sell your vision? Like, let's say if I want to start a company right now and I want to raise capital and I want to raise I want to raise some capital, how do I sell my vision? Like, what are, like, if for entrepreneurs watching this, if you have anything that you want to sell, how do you sell that vision? What's vision to you?
I think it always starts with, do you believe in what you're doing? Like, why are you in this? You got to ask yourself. And again, I get asked the question all the time on raising money in my industry, or they've raised money and what do they want to do? And I always ask the question, well, what do you want to be? Depending on how much capital you have defines what you can and can't do. If you're
Yeah.
going to try to launch a brand in 50 states, that's going to take a lot of money. Do you need to start small? Do you need to start, and I think I still have that small attitude. I still have that market by market attitude. I still know that when I launch something, I need to have a person in the market who's going to go sell it. If I don't have a person, I'm not going to do it. So to me, it's all about, what do you want to be? What do you want to be when you grow up? What's the scenario you're looking at? But you got to believe in it, because you're selling yourself. You got to believe in it. And that's the most important thing in the whole world.
Yeah.
And I think
And you,
I think I'm going to say it differently.
yeah.
I'll use the celebrity aspect of, if you see a lot of, and it's not just the liquor industry, we have lots of celebrities in this, but I'd say 99% of them, their brands fail. And because they're not in it because they love the industry, they love brand building, and they love what they're doing. They're in it because they think they can make a quick buck and it can happen. And
Yeah.
that's not the right reason to be in this.
Yeah.
You gotta be willing to lose everything. You gotta be willing to realize one tweet, if it doesn't work, what are you gonna do? One
Right.
post, if it doesn't work, what are you gonna do?
Right. I heard you say somewhere that you can't fake drive, passion, or love of what you do.
No, you
Uh,
can't.
is this kind of like how you is this kind of a way how you can tell who really has a chance of creating something big or not?
I think for me, it's kind of a fighter's mentality. I want to have an argument. I want to fight it out. I want to, I'm in business with my brother. I want to argue about it. I want to fight about it. I want it to be a passionate discussion.
Yeah.
We're not mad at each other, or in my own company with any employee. I want to argue about it, because if you're not trying to get to a better decision. So
Huh.
yeah, I believe that 100%.
How often do you have those arguments with your brother and your team?
Every day.
Okay, so that's normal then.
Yeah, every day. To me, business is improv. It's like a comedian goes up on stage and he tells a
Yeah.
joke for the first time. And then he goes the next day, goes back up on stage and tells the same joke, but he tells it a little bit different based on the audience's reaction the night before. And then 20 days later, he's been telling the same joke, but he perfected it. To me, that's what
Yeah.
I'm doing. Is
Yeah.
I'm every day I'm trying to learn and question, what did we do wrong? What can we do better? How do we get there a little bit better? So I love trying shit. I love failing. I
Yeah.
think there's a better way, and I want to fight it out.
Yeah. So Brett, let me give you a quick little story here. 1 minute. So I'm in the mortgage space, real estate, escrow, and I have another company, Driven, which is where we have events. We're going on year 8, so it's the 8th year of our big conference where we have thousands of people that come by, and then we have a business boot camp too. So Driven Business Boot Camp and the Driven event, which is a big conference. So that's all social media. It's personal brand. It's marketing, and it's a seminar where we teach young entrepreneurs and all kinds of entrepreneurs, but my audience happens to be 85% of it is Latino Americans in America. So Latino American millennials. And they're all small business owners or people that want to become entrepreneurs. So we teach kind of like, Tony Robbins type of thing. So that company is social media and personal branding and all that stuff. So you can imagine right now with the rates that went up from like a 2%, 3%, they went up to like 8, 9, 10. Now they're starting to come down a little bit, but that destroyed real estate and mortgage, anything in that space, including solar, because solar is tied a lot to the interest rates, which I found out recently. Now, because of my social media presence, personal brand, it allowed me to still kill it in these times. So my question to you is, how important right now is social media in today's world?
I, I think it's critical, depending on how you use it. So to me, it allows me to connect. I almost treat it like a musician or a celebrity, and how you connect with fans. And I love it because it allows me to authentically build a relationship with people who like the brand and understand who they are and give back to who they are. So if you look at my brands, Bel Air has over 1 million followers on its 2 or 3 Instagram sites. Bamboo has the most followers of any rum, bigger than Captain Morgan and Bacardi. And those 2 brands, as you know, are gigantic, huge. Yet I have more followers than them. And they're advertising the shit out of their brands, and I'm not. But that tells me I'm doing something right and I'm connecting authentically to the consumer. So to me, it's a valuable tool to learn, to appreciate, to show love back to them, to do things for those fans. And I think it's great for that use. I think it's amazing for that use. And then we're able to leverage our success and lend that back to them. So a great example is we're really big in Africa. I love Africa. And we had an artist who did a song, and he had Bel Air as a hook. And I loved it, loved the song, and we got behind him. He went from 400,000 followers to 1.2 million followers because we supported him, because we got our whole fan base to support him. And to me, that's an amazing way and an effective way to build relationships, is if you can use your platform to support other people. It's not about you, but it's about
Yeah.
supporting other people, which then makes it about you. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So these brands, did you spend a lot of money in running ads and marketing to build them high? No?
Nothing, none.
How'd you get millions of followers and all that stuff?
It's old school brand building. People like our brands. It's kind of, I'll use my daughter as a great example. My daughter and her friends, she's been this way, she's still in early 20s. All her friends know Bel Air. They know the brand, not because of me, but they see it. It's in the environment. It's out there. And they're holding bottles and taking pictures with these bottles and showing them off.
Yeah.
Think about it. Why would you hold a bottle and take a picture with it? That bottle has to mean something. And that's what our brands mean something. But they're not drinking Bel Air right now because they can't afford it yet. They're drinking shit, low-end, cheap stuff. But the brand, when they start getting income, the brand that they want is this brand. Yeah. But they're holding empty bottles, or they're holding other people's bottles because they want to be seen with it. That, Brett, to me, is why it's building.
Yeah, well, Brett, when they win Super Bowls and championships, they drink Bel Air now. Like you.
In all the examples that you've seen, whether it was, the Cubs or the Rams winning championships, we weren't the sponsor. We didn't pay. Someone else, Bud was, some other brand was, Moet was. But what did the players want? Bel Air. And that's where you can't buy. And my father gave me a saying, which I believe in. You can't buy cool. You can't buy people and force them onto something. They got to think it's cool. They got to appreciate it. They got to own it.
Yeah.
And that's what I want with our brands. I don't want to force it on you. I want you to discover it. You make it your own. Then it's cool to you.
And you definitely know how to, you definitely know cool because you've created a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah. Again, I think I'm the consumer, if that makes sense. Like I want to discover brands myself. I want to take ownership of them. I want to be the one who feels like it could be around 100 years, but if I felt like I found it myself, it's a badge of honor, and you end up owning it for life.
Yeah. Now here, like, for example, the celebrities that are creating their own liquor. Do you know what is your input on that? Like, is it because they have obviously a big social media brand, but for example, Conor McGregor, he has his whiskey, right? And he made a lot of money with that whiskey. And The Rock, I think, has a tequila. He made a lot of money with that. And I heard that that's how they became super wealthy. Is that true, or what's your input on that?
I couldn't tell you. I could probably name 50 or 60 other, really famous people that have had brands that don't work. To me, it's the equivalent of saying, and I mean this genuinely, how do you make something go viral?
Yeah.
Everyone, you don't know. You just got to go put it out there and see. And I don't know what the magic dust is to sprinkle on, to make it successful. There's no question celebrity can help. There's no question. But at the end of the day, the brand better be amazing. It better taste great. It better look great. You may get a pop, but will it stay? And there's lots of examples, more than you can possibly imagine, of failure. But at the end of the day, this is where it gets back to, you got to love what you're doing.
All right. So here to wrap up, Brett, I want to get a couple things really quick. Do you mind sharing, like, how old are you? And when did you feel like you really made it, where you were like, you know what, I made X amount of money? And because what I hear from people is, I study a lot of people that sold companies, billionaires, people that are worth hundreds of millions, and they all tell me that they didn't really make it until like they had their businesses for 20 years and plus, and then they finally started, really they felt like they created wealth later in life. I don't know if this makes any sense, but Did you feel like your success or your wealth was maybe in the last 5 years, 10 years, or because I know you have a 24-year-old daughter. I have three daughters. One's 7. One's gonna be 7 next month. One is 4, and the other one is 9 months.
My answer, and if you ask my brother, he'd say the same thing, and we're just built this way. I don't know what it is, but we just think nothing's real.
Yeah.
Meaning we're always, and maybe it's this entrepreneurial aspect, or maybe I don't know what it is, but there's never been a moment where I felt like, look how successful this company is and look what we're doing, because to me it could all go away. And I think that's why we have this fighter's mentality. That's why if you ask my team, every time something great happens, okay, great, I love that it happened, but what's next? What's next? What's the next great thing? Because we got to keep doing this every day. We got to keep fighting every day because someone wants our spot. Or if we're having success, we got to carve it out for ourselves and take advantage of it. If a brand has momentum, you got to take advantage of it. Otherwise, because you may lose it. But
Yeah.
there's never been a moment. I still get goosebumps. If you telling me you knew Bel Air, it still gives me goosebumps. It still makes me, I still can't believe it. I think for me, from a wealth, I think it comes from more security than anything else.
Yeah.
It's knowing that they can't take my house. Knowing,
Really, right? Still till today.
well, I'll put it this way. My credit is still so bad, I can't get a credit card. Even today, I couldn't get a credit card because my credit, I may have wealth, but I can't get a credit card. Like, again, and I like that. I like that. When I interview these people on my own, the series I have, Self-Made, I can't remember who I was talking to. He had just moved into a new apartment and it looked really bare. And I said, where's all the furniture? And he says, Brett, I purposely only bought like a third of what I should have. I said, why? He says, because I don't want to be comfortable. I don't want to be comfortable. And I get it. I get it. It's like Nipsey Hussle telling me, Brett, you got to pop your trunk. And Nipsey, what does that mean? It means you got to go to the corner, open your trunk and sell your goods and don't give a shit about how you look and how people see you. I have that mentality. I got to get out there and go do it. And it's how I live. It's how I think.
Yeah, that's crazy. Now you said your credit, you can't get a credit card. Is that because you just you don't have credit lines, or you didn't build credit, or you didn't use it ever, or you stopped using it, or because you use a lot of debt?
From a personal credit perspective, my credit's terrible. I lost my house. I had my IRS sweep my bank account. I have the worst credit score you could possibly imagine. And that takes time to build, but it has nothing to do with it has nothing to do with what's sitting in the bank. It has to do with what's your credit history. And my history is terrible, which is kind of funny when you think about it. But you know what? It's a reminder.
But how long ago was that when you had the IRS in the house, just to kind of see how long it took you to like get to today?
Oh God, it's probably, I can't even remember. I can't even remember. But so I have a friend who I invested in his credit card company, and they rejected me. He had to qualify me for me. He had to opine for me because my credit was not good enough. But it's a funny thing, but that's just a reality.
Yeah. No, I get it.
I have a debit card.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's awesome. And then you said you have a team of a couple hundred people. Can you just briefly describe what a day in your life looks like? Are you like a 18-hour workday guy? Do you sleep 8 hours? What's your schedule Monday through Friday with your employees, and Saturdays and Sundays?
So I'm probably traveling half the year now. So that's what this past year's looked like, and next year will look like. This year was half the year in Europe, and as I said, I like getting out and meeting accounts and meeting the trade. So I want to be with our distributors and our importers and get out in the market. as we launch our brands globally. So this coming year, as an example, half the year will be spent in Asia and Africa, because those are the two markets I want to focus on. It's hundreds of emails every day because I want to touch our salespeople. I want to touch their distributors. It's on the computer, 12, 13 hours a day. That's what I'm doing. If I'm not on the computer, I'm out selling.
And why do you like doing interviews? I see you in a lot of interviews.
It's a great question. But if you asked me a few years ago, I would never want to. And I think because I always wanted to make it about the brands. And what I've realized is, as I get older, is more when people saw me or know who I am or knew the brands, they automatically thought I was successful. And I think that's not the story I want them to know, because I wanted them to hear all the shit stories that I went through in getting here.
Yeah.
Because I wish those are the things, Albert, that I get excited about, that motivates me, because I don't have that. I raised hundreds of millions of dollars and I went public and it was easy. It wasn't. And I think if people know, the Fat Joe stories and the shit that he went through,
Rick Ross too.
Story. What?
Rick Ross too. I've seen you with Rick
Correct.
Ross.
Everyone's got their own, story. I think it's healthy, and I think it's good for that next generation, or anybody wanting to start a business or struggle in any way. I think it's important for them to hear, it's tough, but you know what? If you love what you do, you can get there. You can get there.
Yeah, and like right here to end this on the sale, on the exit, how did you figure out your multiple on like what is your business worth?
We had bankers involved, and it's not rocket science at the end of the day, because you're pegging yourself against competition and past transactions in the space and the future value of the company and the growth prospects. So it's at the end of the day, like everything, we're not the first ones to go through this. So you want to look, it's like getting a mortgage rate. What are other people giving? And you're gonna figure out where you can sit, where you fit. But the harder part is letting go. There's no question.
Yeah.
That's the harder part.
Were you a little bit depressed, like when you exited the first time?
It's the worst thing in the world. It's like selling a child. It's heartbreaking.
Wow.
But look, back then I was 30 people. I'm 200 people now. Back then I had one brand. Now I'm on my fifth. It's again, I took my road, and this is why I always say everyone's different. Could I have raised a bunch of money? I probably could have, and sold a piece of the company and just done it that way. I could have, but I don't think I would have been happy. Because my attitude is, and my team knows this, if anybody's going to fuck it up, I want it to be me.
Right.
You lose that when you sell a piece of you.
And are you a big learner right now? Do you have a mentor? How do you get better?
Oh, honest to God, it's by talking to people. It's the interviews I do. Because I want to know. I get motivated by hearing shit stories. I get motivated by hearing other people tell me, listen to you when we first got on, that it didn't work 4 or 5 times. Like, I love that. Like, that's you need, for me, I need to be constantly reminded, and I get fuel from that. I love the energy from hearing other people's stories.
Awesome. So Brett, very happy to have you here, and just I want to make sure that people know where to follow you. Where can people reach out, know more about the brand? And also, right before you say that, I want to hear one story from you that maybe you've never shared before, like something that you've never talked about on any platform or nothing. You're a great storyteller, so this is going to be a good one.
Well, you can reach out to me at Instagram's the best one, Brett Berish, CEO, or the brands Official Bel Air, Original Bamboo, Deacon Whiskey, Vion France, McQueen Violet Fog. Gosh, that's a good one. This is a good one. Back in the day, I'm thinking.
I'll keep it a secret, I promise.
Yeah, I know exactly. I'll tell you my first big purchase.
Yeah.
I remember it was Scott and I. He was our only employee. He and I pretending we had an office, but it was actually my apartment in New York. And the front of the apartment we made into an office. And one day we were doing, we were getting orders on Ace. Things were progressing, and I don't want to spend because my fear is it's all going to go away. And it was a hot summer day in New York. And he takes off his shirt and he says, "Brett, this is ridiculous. It's so fucking hot in the apartment." And I said, "Fine, I'll do it." And I bought two 10,000 BTU air conditioners. And that was, I think it was $1,500, like $750 a piece, and put them in the loft. That was my first big purchase. That was the first investment we made, was two air conditioners because we had no air conditioning. But I remember it like it was yesterday, and it's just part of who we were and are, and it's still an important part for me. Like that was our big investment.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Brett, you're very inspiring, and I'm sure a lot of everybody's here is going to get so much value, whether they're starting a business, thinking about it, or maybe they're struggling right now and they need to figure it out. Lots of valuable gems. Thank you very much, Brett, and I'll put all your information below. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day. Thank you for having me on.